And this is so I went on the Echoes of New Eden podcast Sunday, which was yesterday, and that was kind of wild because it's been, well, you should just go check it out. Rambo and Gromeyer and Jubileus are awesome. Miss Taylor Rick, hopefully he's doing good, but yeah, hi there. This is so I'm not really sure what I'm doing. I know I want to talk about Eve Echoes, but I also don't want to do the weekly podcast thing, right? I just kind of want to talk. So today, specifically, I want to talk about the um, the pursuit of statistics. Like a lot of folks will chase numbers for battleships and for big tanky whale grinders, battleships, dreadnoughts, capitals, really the stuff that you need to spend money to field in the game. And like, that's not really necessary for operational effectiveness. Like, as a free player, as an alpha, you only really need a battle cruiser if you want to like do uh, station warfare. So there's player-owned stations, and there are like corporate stations, corporation stations. You need more than one person to tackle, but like a lone dude and a stabber can go strip the shields off of a player-owned station over the course of an hour or whatever. Just, you know, strip everything except for the cannons, and maybe a prop mod if you're feeling frisky, and post up and knock on the door. Like, you can strip the shields and then the armor relatively easily. You just gotta, have the same time set aside between the 2 days, and you're set. And like that's with maybe 250 DPS. Oh, beautiful magpie. Yeah, like you don't really need that much damage. Like, especially since the cap for a station or any sort of structure is 2,000 per second. So like anything beyond 2,000 is overkill, which like there's no kill like overkill, but unless you're looking to rush down or alpha someone off the grid, there's no need for, chasing statistics fails to recognize the ISK and time investment required to attain a specific level, right? Like, take for example a caracal trainer with some medium torpedoes on it. That costs comparatively nothing. Like, well, so trainer cruisers are a little bit different, but let's say any sort of ship, like, that's attainable. Oh, here we go. Um, Stealth bombers, Hound, for example. You throw 3 medium torpedoes on a Hound. I think that gets you around 300 DPS ish, and that's like tailor made for structure warfare, even without a bombing mod, which is 200 million esque, overpriced. But even without a bombing mod, like, that's decent. That's gonna strip the shield off 45 minutes to an hour, and then the armor, I believe, will take a little bit longer, a $150, like an hour and a half. But that's like 2 episodes of something that you're watching in the background. Or like, if you're like me and love audiobooks or YouTube videos, like, it's just good, background noise. And sometimes you'll get a fight. Like, oh man, Saturday. Okay, so I didn't know this was possible, but Saturday, and I talked about it on the podcast, but there was this, it's me, Marzio. There was this Marzio that popped up. I was stripping the shields off of a GGVP player-owned station. There's this cluster, like, so at Turnback ITC, there's 4 stations in the system, and I've got one down to hull, and I was working on juggling a second, and the GGVP was the second. That's the one that, like, this Marzio drops in at 400 kilometers off, which, hey, that's good. One, that suggests that they've already bookmarked a defensive position, so good tactics there. And two, I thought I was safe. 400 kilometers, like, for a battleship that, I'm coming at this with a cruiser's perspective, right? Like, I was using my favorite Hurricane, a battle cruiser's perspective. I was using my favorite Hurricane, got caught speeding basically, because like 700 DPS ish, and that's cheap. Fitted with nothing but Mark 9s and just the most basic. Everything on there was basic except for the Exile core, and the Exile Nano core on there like was really more for looks than for anything else. That core is built for Logi ships, and I don't fly. I wish I did. I'd love to have a team of folks, to support, but for insurgency and structural warfare, like just on my lonesome trying to steal some goods. Anyway, Marzio one-shot me from 400 kilometers off. I didn't even get a yellow box. Like, I didn't even know he was targeting me. It was just like, gone. So I went back in a stabber, my third favorite stabber. I've got a couple that are located, in that area, but the one on Turnback ITC is one that I've been toying with for popping cameras, killing cameras. It had some good operations before it got deleted. Like, I don't know if the yellow box registers outside of a certain range, and like 400 kilometers is far enough off that, deleted. And I know that he picked up the loot that I dropped, so he got some greens, which good. But yeah, that was a wild experience. That was a good learning experience. Like, even though I lost I lost basically my best ship and like a low to mid-range ship. Like, I feel like that was a good experience. Even though, like, I'm not going back to strip that shield. I know that I can't contend. It's not an abandoned station, right? Like, it's not what NetEase is designing around with those Annihilator fleets that are coming through and hopefully doing damage. I haven't gone out and scouted any of the systems that had Annihilator fleets the last time I passed through. I'm kind of curious to see if they actually, cleaned out the trash. Excuse me, but there's really no way to tell unless you've already got them bookmarked, and I don't. So yeah, I talked about chasing stats, chasing numbers, and like in the book, I'm kicking around the idea of recording, like basically reading Orion's belts on here, because like books are expensive. They cost time and money, and like I'm going to love the words more than anybody else is. Mainly because I put all the effort into putting them down on paper, and like I don't care if people listen. Well, I do care. I want them to be useful. I want the quality of play to increase in EVE Echoes. I want more free players to come to the game, because like eventually, and I don't know, this is some prognostication, right? Like, it ain't an accurate prediction, but eventually all whales run out of stuff to whale with. The addiction reaches its rock bottom. And like, for me, that rock bottom was terrifying. And coming back to EVE Echoes and the community that surrounds it, like, that's equally terrifying, especially coming in with my name instead of my old screen name. And like, I've kind of lost everything. I've given up better lives for worse reasons. So it's a weird sort of devil may care attitude that I'm bringing to the production of books and content. And like, it's probably not a good thing, but it's a thing that empowers me to write more other stuff, I think. So like Dead Saint songs, right? I've been working on that for a hot minute, for at least a year and a half. It used to be, okay, for longer than that, since the Academy days. Like, I used to call it Shotguns and Sing-Alongs. It was basically an urban fantasy spin on my experiences with my ex-wife and all of that nonsense. And it's evolved into something entirely different. It's its own animal now, and like, I can't give up on that. I need to kick that out the door so I can get back to other projects, because like, it's weird. The slower I go, the more things pop up and the more difficult it is to finish anything. Like, I've got a few other projects that were very close to being finished that, you know, I put on the back burner because life got in the way. And this is one that, like, I need to at least get an iteration out the door. It doesn't need to be the full story. It just needs to be enough for me to feel good about publishing it. So, yeah. Because I want to talk about the different pilots that exist within, you know, my interactions with the game. And I don't want everything to be through the game's mode, right? Like, if anything, I would be using a different game. Specifically, 5 Parsecs from Home, which is it's a solo tabletop. It's very niche, very weird, but very fun. I would probably use that as a way of characterizing and dramatizing the different pilots that I describe in Orion's Belts. And like, I don't really go into details for their stories or their characterization or any of their background stuff. Like, they're just fun little, you know, figurative toys, mimetic dolls. Ramble. So yeah, the podcast was terrifying, and like, once it was done, I rambled, and I don't know if it was like a shame ritual or whatever, but I was very embarrassed to talk about what all went down. But once I was done, I was pretty much done for the day. I spent the rest of the afternoon like playing Elite Dangerous, and I went and printed out more pamphlets to try and advertise the writing and give it a purpose, but also for their own sake. There's this game kind of like Horse or Hangman called Contact that I wish more folks knew about. So I made it the cover for this little zine that I kicked out, and like, I'm spreading that around. I'm spreading my resume around, trying to like make ends meet and like enable the writing, because I'm already crazy. I'd be even crazier without it. So yeah, let's see. Did I hit everything that I wanted to with this Orby report? Chasing stats, bigger numbers. Oh yeah, Overkill. Just to round that out and pretend that this is all about Eve. After a certain point, paying for numbers yields fewer returns. Like, there's overkill, right? There's overage. Now, if you want like the perfect application of force, the perfect application of force is exact and accurate to whatever you're trying to kill, right? So let's say you're trying to fine-tune a ship for a specific tier of content. Let's say like a tier 1 pirate anomaly. The perfect ship for that job is going to one-shot precisely every vessel within that content. Every ship. Just one shot. Pop. And like, fine-tuning that is to the maximum value of any ship within there and no more. because any excess is waste, right? Um, this same concept applies to any sort of military environment. So, for example, not military in real life, but military within Eve Echoes. Because in real life, like, there's too much ambiguity. The application of force is one that requires escalation at every turn. You don't use a tactical nuke to take out someone with a slingshot. Ideally, you use, whatever is one step above what that person with the slingshot could, defend. Which, like, in this modern age is drones. Drones are the purest expression of democratization of force and are absolutely terrifying, but also really cool. There's this book, it's like the gospel for a new age or something like that. It's not solar punk, but it's like right on the border between solar punk and like climate change predictions. And it predicted fairly well the use of drones as like a means of democratizing force. Like, I think 10 years before the war in Ukraine. I can't remember when the book came out. I'd have to go back through Audible and look it up, but that same principle applies everywhere. Arson is cheap, bombs are expensive. That's fundamentally what it comes down to. And, like, ultimately it's why mimetic crystallization and the fascist tendency for any organization to trend towards tyranny ends up shattering. Because, like, flexibility, whether it comes from reason or from experience, flexibility is something that tyrannical institutions lack, just by nature of their own internal efficiency that leads to a fundamental break. And that exists within, Eve, historically, but in real life too. It's an expression of the fundamental human tendency to fall short due to Dunbar's numbers and a bunch of other things that I write about in Mimetic Organization, which I didn't publish that yet. That's one of those projects that's like, I wrote it, it's right there, it just doesn't have a conclusion. So if I go back through and write like a concluding chapter, basically describing, hey, this is why, it doesn't matter what form of government you use, whether it's a democracy or anything really, like the tendency towards oligarchy and eventually monopoly, and then the shattering, duopoly, then monopoly, then shattering. It's something inherent to social structures, right? That's something that the Mouse Utopia illustrates. But it's a mechanical issue, not necessarily a moral failing. These moral panics that we endure. In Eve, they're called failure cascades, and they occur, empires rise and fall, even in micro, which is fascinating. But what's interesting, what I find probably most addictive about Eve Echoes is this tendency to love battleships. And I think it's because no fascist regime can sustain itself without some sort of external supply. The fire burns from within and then seeks fire elsewhere, but runs out of reach. Because there's no, you can't extend beyond what you can control. And the world is too big for us humans and our human factors limitations. Dunbar's number is the biggest. But also, 7 plus or minus 2 as an expression of short-term memory and cognitive load. Um, just a bunch of other stuff that, like, yeah, I need to publish that. For now, for Eve Echoes, the Marzio experience was great. It definitely changed my tactics. I use a cheap stabber, and I've got a Tall War Assault that I'm staging for more shield stripping, but just going through and experimenting. I noticed, so I wasn't able to apply. I'm wondering if I can apply, if I can steal the player-owned station with not a Sino, what's it called? An Entosis link. Because I got this error message saying you can only use an Entosis link on a corporate citadel, which that doesn't seem right. I think that's a translation error, or at least I'm hoping it's a translation error. Because, like, I don't want to, destroy these stations. I want to flip them. I want to steal them and sell them. But if destruction is all I can do, like, I can sell the parts. They drop parts. So I don't mind, like, it's not very ISK efficient, but it's not about the money. Clearing out the space and killing abandoned stations and rebuilding, hopefully, something better in their place. Operationally. I don't know. I spent today writing and running around, running errands in HiSec. I basically used a stripper in Orions and cleared out just non-stop belts, which is nice. It was peaceful. I don't have to worry about transport. I can just, use regional delivery, which costs nothing, basically. Just a couple thousand. One pirate's bounty to move all of that ore. And, like, I'm almost done fully training skills for Hemorphite. Because, like, Zydrine is the most value-dense mineral on the market at the moment. Nobody's farming the middle. Everybody's farming higher tier, like the upper tier minerals, or just trying to offload tritanium because they're not actually converting it. They don't use it for manufacturing small ships. They just build it up until, they need it for the big ships. Which, it's kind of funny to see the Telemachus and the, what was the other one? The Telemachus and the Delirium. How those are being used as, like, bargaining chips more than, actual operational or strategic assets. Because, like, that's the thing with Sister of Eve ships. They're strategic and they're built for exploration, but nobody really does exploration together, even though, it's so much more ISK efficient. Like, buy one blue scanner for $1 million, $2 million, or farm until you can get 1,000 cubic meters per cycle. And, like, it's just so much easier to go to condensed space and get that 10 times bonus. Like, if I were to tell you that you could modify your ship to have an 1,000% increase in any capacity, like, folks will spend $40, $50, $60 American, which, like, that's not a good representation. They'll spend, like, ore. Let's stick to ore since that's in game. What was it? I can't even, like, process how much waste, how great a factor of loss there is in not approaching exploration with a cost-efficient alpha perspective, right? Because, like, Tech 9, so Mark 9 blue scanners, 2 million ISK tops, because they're the market's flooded. It's a saturated market. It's at the point where Mark 7s are more expensive than Mark 9s, and you're paying more for less, just because it's rarer. But, like, You throw those on an alpha character and then go mine in sea space. Every hour spent doing that, every 20 minutes spent doing that, is the equivalent of 10 times out in normal space. And it's safer because nobody goes in there. Like, very few people go in there armed. There are no Q ships. There's no engagement with any content below Tech 7 because the only people who play ignore new players. They ignore most of the game, not recognizing that, like, you don't need to spend money to, have a strategic or operational effect on any given area. Whether it's popping cameras or stripping shields and armor and just, like, harassing player-owned stations, because that's where people keep their toys. They don't keep them in the corporate, I mean, they do. Some do. Experienced folks do. But, like, a lot of folks invest in stuff that they don't really intend to take advantage of. The corporations, for example, they're not actually, fully utilizing the assets that they claim. It's very fun and very easy to go into some corporation's SOV and just steal their resources. Whether it's killing the Logi ships in all the pirate anomalies, or gas farming, or mining, any exposed assets that they have. Moon mining, like stealing moon rocks, super fun. But, like, there's not a lot of conflict that arises from that. Folks don't really defend their space because they're not really using it. It's an unsubstantiated claim more often than not, which is why I get a kick out of, like, a lot of the SOV worry that's going around AOA and the space that they claim versus Meow and the space that they claim. Like, posting up and turn back ITC between the two, it's a fun little. There's, like, constantly people coming and going, which is why GGVP was a surprise. And, like, golly, that Marzio, 400 kilometers, I can't believe it. All right, I've rambled long enough. I think I'm gonna start reading chapters. I don't know if it's gonna go down tomorrow or Thursday, but I do know I'm gonna start. It'd be good practice to read instead of just doing the impromptu rambles. Having something prepared and, like, measured. Yeah. So hopefully you're doing well. I hope you have a good day. Thanks.